Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Kyle Patterson from Bryson Insurance. I am joined with Marco Beghetto from both the VP of Communications for the Canadian Trucking Alliance and the Ontario Trucking Association. So thank you, Marco, for making yourself available to be with us today.
Oh, nice to be here. Thank you.
We've had many people reaching out to us and commenting on social media, as you guys are seeing as well, really trying to look into how they can help and support the transportation truckers today, because everyone's very appreciative of the work that they're doing. And so we just had a couple questions for you to help guide us as we help people make these decisions. So first, just really trying to get a perspective of what's life like now for a trucker in Canada or in Ontario, and what's like going cross-border, and what's the industry like right now?
So I'd like to start off by saying that these are, other than, the healthcare workers, I think truck drivers are right there with them on the front lines battling the spread of this pandemic. I think, without truck drivers, even those frontline healthcare workers wouldn't be able to do their jobs. So I think, unfortunately, sometimes it takes a crisis to recognize the contributions that the hardworking men and women of the trucking industry, what they're capable of, how much they're dependent on. And I think people are starting to see that now. And I can only hope that after this mess, this wave washes over, that they will continue to, at least in the back of their minds, remember the contributions that truckers made. To answer your question, for the most part, it's business as usual. I think we are starting to enter what you would call the new normal. I don't want to use the word stabilizing, but I think people are starting to recognize what they're up against and starting to get used to the idea of what they're going to have to do going forward. So from that standpoint, I think the major wrinkles have been ironed out in terms of crossing the border. Drivers initially, even though they were exempted and declared exempted by our Prime Minister and Transport Canada and US officials, I think what you had early last week was US Customs making what I would say individual officers were making arbitrary decisions based on their interpretation, or should I say misinterpretation, of the policy, and telling Canadian drivers, you better get back across the border before midnight, because like Cinderella, when the clock strikes midnight, you're going to turn into pumpkins and you won't be allowed in, which wasn't true. So we were working hard with both Ottawa and Washington to make sure that the message got trickled down to frontline officers that in fact, Canadian citizens and temporary foreign workers, regardless of where they were born, as long as they did not visit a hotspot country in the last 14 days, were permitted to cross the border back and forth. So those calls and those complaints of drivers saying that they were stranded and officers weren't letting them through, those have started to dissipate. So I think the border is now working properly. What was your next question?
Well, just in that, so we're hearing that the life of a transportation driver today is having difficulty, being fed at truck stops, and also being able to use public facilities. So it's just really trying to get present to what's the life look like today for a truck driver.
Yeah, so there's two things on that. One is CTA has been working pretty diligently with both federal authorities and what I call jurisdictional authorities in provinces and states to make sure that at least publicly run facilities are open as much as possible. They've closed seating areas, which we completely understand. But what we've been impressing upon them is the need to keep washroom facilities open and food services active as much as possible. Now, what obviously has been happening is truck drivers, because they drive tractor trailers, have not been able to use the drive-through lanes at a lot of franchises. And that was it was an unintended consequence. We were working this week with the Restaurants Canada, which is the Restaurant Association, which obviously deals with some of the bigger franchises. we got a big win yesterday. McDonald's emailed us directly and told us that as of today, there's a new policy using a specific app. I mean, I can basically run it through. It is called it's called My McD's app. It's available on iTunes and Google Play. And basically, if you can select curbside, and a server will bring it out to the driver, or at least a common area where a driver can get it. And that supposedly is in place today. We've been assured by the Restaurant Association that a contingency of other big companies are going to get in contact with us over the next couple days about having, excuse me, it's not a Corona cough, about having similar policies. So I think, you know, for the most part, we got a big win on that. Otherwise, the supply chain, you know, for the most part, I think customers and shippers are working well with their carriers and implementing policies. The drivers of our members are very well trained and educated on sanitation and social distancing. We have a tip sheet that we've distributed to the industry. But unfortunately, there are still some situations, anecdotally anyway, that we're hearing where maybe drivers are not treated with a certain type of respect that they should be in these times. And I think everybody in the supply chain has to understand that if they want their product moved, you know, the other shoe is going to drop if you're not treating these drivers with a certain level of respect. And I get it. I understand you have to protect your own employees. I understand you don't want what I would call, you know, people, strangers or people who are not your employees walking through your premises.
Right.
But I think it's imperative that you work with your service provider, your carrier service provider, to provide some sort of contingencies, whether that is portable facilities on the premises, allowing them to rest at the very least. But you should be working with your service providers on that.
Well, that's good too. So we'll make sure, as you know, we're a very large transportation brokerage, and we're quite involved in the supply and logistics chain. So we'll also make sure that that message gets along to our clients in that area. We also have many in our community, just general citizens who are extremely grateful and thankful for everything that the transportation industry and the truck drivers are doing right now. While we're all under a stay-home mandate, you know, these guys are out actually, men and women out really putting themselves at risk just to ensure that we have our basic essentials covered, and so much more too. So, you know, the challenge is that people really want to somehow show their gratitude and support in a meaningful way, but are struggling with being how do you do that when you're also stuck in isolation or stuck at home?
Exactly.
So just looking from, you know, what ideas or what thoughts do you have around that? Whether it be from, whatever you have, and also including like from an advocacy perspective of anything, even at a local level.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a couple things. I would say, look, at the very least, offer your words of support. We started a campaign over the weekend that has been building some momentum. So it's hashtag Thank a Trucker. I think the Americans are doing it as well. And, you know, we're not getting territorial about this. I think it should all be sort of, you know, this is one giant community in North America.
Sure.
Drivers are drivers. They should be respected no matter what side of the border they're on. So if you scroll on Twitter or Instagram, the hashtag Thank a Trucker, I think you'll see a lot of people making announcements and offering their words of encouragement, telling stories. And I think, you know, just that alone is a reinforcement to the driver community that they are appreciated, they're respected, and we can't get through this without them. And I think that needs to be reinforced. If you want to go a step above, you know, check out the local truck stop, check out where drivers are congregating when they're resting. And if there's a food service facility that isn't functioning or isn't working, well, you know, grab a bag of groceries, grab a tray of coffees, and just bring it over there. I mean, I get it. You know, you can still practice social distancing. You can basically wave them over and say, I'm leaving this food here for you. And there are stories all over social media where people are doing that, and it's literally bringing some drivers to tears. I think these guys, men and women, in their cabs for 10 hours straight in isolation, need that kind of encouragement in times like this. I think we're all feeling a bit isolated. We're all feeling a bit lonely. And we have the comforts of our homes and technology and devices to sort of get us through it. You know, I know my son basically hasn't gotten off the PlayStation for an entire straight week, and truck drivers don't have those luxuries. So, you know, that constant human contact, I think, is really, really important right now.
Yeah, and just to add to that too, just that sense of community or sense of family that you get to go home and be with your family tonight, and you know, I'm home with my family right now, and in reality, it's just not the truckers' world right now. So just showing that love, care, and support
Right.
can go a long way. So thank you. Before I wrap up, is there anything else you want to add or say?
Again, I just want to reinforce the fact that we're going to get through this. We can't do it without each other. We can't do it without truck drivers, and they can't do it without people showing some gratitude and helping them out along the way. Just everybody be safe, everybody be healthy, listen to what the experts are telling us, stop being selfish. You know, I think there was a meme that I distributed on Facebook the other day, which said our grandparents were asked to fight in 2 world wars. We're asked to sit on the couch and sneeze into our, you know, or cough into our arm. It's like, you know, don't mess this up.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Which is one of the most challenging things for people who love to take action and show acts of gratitude. So I think you've really given us an angle today to look at it from that digital footprint, but also that social distancing opportunity to actually get out there and give something, and say thanks from afar, like a physical distance, and just really show that love. So thanks so much inside of your busy schedule of advocating and doing all the work you're doing to also support the industry. We thank you as Bryson Insurance, and also thank you from the community. Keep it up, and again, have yourself a fantastic day and stay safe. Thank you.
Virtual fist bump.
Boom. That's great. Take care.